I don't know if you guys saw in the newsletter, we kind of put what the talk is about in the little newspaper. And today's talk is basically about, it's a transformation talk. It's about letting go of the person I used to be. That's what I call the talk. And I think that you'll notice as I go along why I called it that. It's basically, we're going to be kind of talking about going beyond the wall of fears and worries that comes up when change is upon us, right? And then if we can just change our perspective a little bit and just realize that the wall is only an obstacle to pass through on our journey towards self. And I mean self with the capital S, like the higher self, self-realization. So what are we? I always like to ask questions. What are we? And that question came about because of a conversation I was having with a friend. They had just recently lost a loved one, and they were just sharing with me how this person came to them in a dream, and they felt like they kind of came to say goodbye and to kind of thank them for everything they had done for them. And this person was just telling me that they kind of started having some ideas of what could possibly happen after a person dies. What happens with the soul? Is there a process that the soul goes through after it dies in preparation for the afterlife? It just became a really interesting conversation. And we started talking about death and what is death? Is it a beginning? Is it an end? And out of that conversation, I just kind of told the person, well, that kind of all depends on what do you believe we are. And so what are we? And what I find is there's two perspectives. You either believe that we're human beings looking or in search of a spiritual awakening, or that we're divine, eternal, spiritual beings dealing with a temporary human awakening. And what I believe is that that's where our duality kind of lies. The experience that you're going to have depends entirely on which one of those two perspectives are you going to believe and you're going to live your life from. One of those is the way of the ego. One of those is the way of the spirit. One of those is the illusion, and one of those is the truth. I kind of want to reference the story of Moses and the people of Israel really quick. I know that most of us know the story, but I just find it that it's going to illustrate this talk very well. As most of you know, they were slaves, their children were slaves, and they were in bondage in Egypt for 400 years. Then along comes Moses, sent by God, and he wins their freedom. And then he takes them on this long, challenging, uncomfortable, uncertain journey towards freedom. And of course, that journey, we all know about the famous passage to the Red Sea. And they eventually make it to their destiny. They make it to their mountain. And what I find so interesting about that story is that as soon as they were freed, they began their journey, they started to complain. They were complaining so much so that even some of them asked Moses to take them back. And I'm just like, how is that possible? Are you telling me that the journey towards freedom, it's more difficult than 400 years of slavery? So let's assume that the story is a metaphor for spiritual transformation. And I would like to just take a moment and make a distinction between change and transformation. Okay? So there's this paper, right? That's change. But the essential quality of that paper remains the same. When it comes to transformation, nothing of the old remains. It's completely renewed. Okay? So back to the story. It's a metaphor. Egypt, in the story, it's our own human ego. And by the way, the ego is the oldest slave master in history. It really is. So, assuming that we're living from the second perspective that I initially talked about, that we're spiritual beings dealing with a temporary human awakening, let's assume that we're living from that perspective. So, then that means that our journey is a spiritual one. And the second that our journey becomes uncomfortable, the second that our journey becomes uncertain and challenging and difficult, the ego is going to complain. And he's going to fight and he's going to resist. Just like the people of Israel did. As soon as they got on their journey, they started complaining. And this because at times of stress and personal conflict, we have a tendency to revert back to our old habits. We tend to revert back to what we've known, to what we're used to. But why? Why do we do that? The ego loves certainty, comfort, safety. It needs to know that it exists. It needs something to hold on to feel safe, to feel comfortable. But that goes back to the initial duality that I was talking about, how we're either spiritual beings or we're human beings. Which one are you living from? Because a part of us, one of our sides, is constantly building walls of comfort and safety, right? And there's another part of us that is trying to obliterate through those walls and break free. And that's exactly what transformation is. It's freedom. It's liberation from the enslavement of our former selves. It's letting go. It's letting go of something that we're holding on to, usually some aspect of ourselves that is controlling us, because it's keeping us safe, because it's keeping us comfortable, because it's what we know, it's what we've grown used to. So I want to tell you something else that came up out of that conversation I was having. Does anybody remember the show Lost? Yeah? Good show, huh? There's a lot of controversy about the ending. But I was listening to my Pandora, and a piano song came on, and I remember the song. I was like, this song sounds familiar. So I immediately went to Google, and I Googled the song, and sure enough, it was the theme song. It's called Life and Death, for the scenes of dying in the show. And in YouTube, you know how it suggests videos to you? Well, off to the right, there was one that said, The End Explained. And I was like, okay. Let's go see what this guy has to say. But it was really just scenes, like still shots, and some actual live shots, and then just captions at the bottom. And he shows all the main characters and their scenes in the show when they died. And then it says, Kate, died in this moment, and she let go. And Jack died in this moment. He let go. I forgot the Korean couple. The Korean couple died in this moment. They let go together. So-and-so died over here. They let go. And he just keeps saying that. Little paragraphs. They let go. They died here. They let go. This person never let go. They still have things they have to do. This person let go at this point. And I'm listening to this. I'm like, death is the ultimate letting go, right? So then what does that say about life? What's the opposite? That we're holding on, right? We're holding on to something. What are we? We're holding on to all these experiences that we're having because we don't want to let go. Letting go is so painful. So painful that we don't even want to do it. That's why so many of us, we're so afraid of death. Out there, the general population, they're really scared of death. Which is, if death is a letting go, then I understand now why. Letting go is hard. Letting go is difficult. So we hold on to our husbands, and we hold on to our wives, and we hold on to our jobs, and we hold on to our kids, and we hold on to our cars and our stuff. We don't want to let any of that stuff go. because we don't want to let go. And so here's sort of what happens. We experience a change. Something is currently changing. That is going to trigger, or it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel challenging. It's going to feel uncertain. All that uncertainty is going to trigger fears. Fears are going to start coming up. And what do? We start resisting. We begin holding on, looking for something to hold on. We want to feel safe. We want to feel comfortable. Then we experience pain. But where do we actually experience the pain? It's in our minds. Pain is directly tied to our belief or our thoughts about the current situation that is currently changing, about how it should be, how we think it should be. So what is conflicting with what I think it is or should be. It's not matching up. What is currently happening doesn't match up with what I believe it to be or how it should be. So then what do we have to let go of? What needs to change? Our thoughts, our belief. It's not working anymore. It's outdated, and it's limiting us. Because up to that point, our belief, our thought has been rooted, and I'm going back to the initial two perspectives, has been rooted in the illusion, not in the truth. This is what I mean. They say our body is the vessel for the soul, right? So this is the vessel, the soul. You are a soul. You don't have a soul, you are a soul. So that means the soul is the truth of who you are, then the vessel is the illusion, right? Because it's carrying the truth. Our experiences work the same way. They're the vessel of truth that are going to lead to our transformation. So when we struggle, what happens when we're resisting is that we're mistaking the experience for the truth. We're focusing on the circumstance itself, not in the truth that the vessel is bringing us. It's bringing us something. It's showing us a message, a lesson, something that needs to change so that we can experience a transformation. In order to experience the transformation, again, going back to the definition of transformation, is freedom, liberation from the enslavement of our former selves. Okay? Then that means I have to let go of who I used to be, or at least who I think I used to be. I have to let go of thoughts, beliefs, limiting thoughts, limiting beliefs. Okay? My mind has to be renewed. Okay? So as we begin to transform in our lives, and we begin to experience the fulfillment associated with that transformation, our experiences are going to test us time and time again. And the ego is going to resist, it's going to complain, it's going to inject doubt, and that causes us to lose faith. And I firmly believe that part of our problem lies in our lack of faith. What is faith? Faith is complete trust, beyond doubt, a knowing within you that things are working out as they need to be for your highest good. And for the most part, most of us believe that, things happen for a reason, that things are working together for good. Well, we have that belief. But when it comes down to it, we don't trust it. We doubt it. I'm telling you, I see this time and time again with the patients I work with the clients I see, and even with myself at times. In the midst of a conflict, we lack faith. We really do. But why is that? Because again, we lose focus on the truth and we start focusing on the illusion. And that's what creates the struggle, because we're not seeing the truth. We don't trust and accept and allow the change that is currently happening because it's a vessel for a truth that's going to lead to our transformation. Instead, again, we're focusing on the experience itself. It's hard, it's difficult. We're looking at the struggle itself. So, the experience that we're perceiving as struggle, okay, that we're calling them pain, that we're calling them difficult, we're not seeing that they're just the obstacles, the challenges, and the tests that we have to go through in life and pass so that we can rise to a higher level of being. So we can find, so we can realize our higher self, so we can realize that truth that we're spiritual beings. We always have, always were, always will be, dealing with a temporary human experience. Okay? So if you can break free of the chains of the ego, if you can break free of all those aspects of yourself that are controlling you, then you will experience a transformation. And you will experience freedom. Thank you.